Oh, hey, welcome to I Know a Guy Bicycles, and this is Shop Talk Tuesday. So, are you ready for your inspection? Yes, because we all feel like we're going to have definitely our private junk inspected going forward into this season. Doing a couple of talks about the topic news of everything that's been basically building up over the last 6 months to 3 years. It's one of those things where we find ourselves in a situation where bag gets worse and you'd think it'd get better at some point, but we're basically at a crossroads. Not even crossroads, we're basically going down a cliff, full bore speed, and actually there's no bottom in sight. It's like the endless pit. And we're trying to figure out and navigate how to navigate what we're in. So we're going to talk about those couple things. We're going to talk about the rider's perspective. We're going to talk about the small independent bike shop perspective, as well as we're going to talk about how the industry is behaving, what I see it in my realm, and also being in the industry for 35 years. I have a little bit, I wouldn't say insights, but just kind of that weird tingling sensation of, have we been here before? Any case, it's going to be 80 degrees here. Nice day to go for a ride. So after this, I'm going to get all my verbal frustrations out, and you're going to join me along with this ride, and we'll talk about some cool stuff along the way and maybe show you a little bit of cool B-roll. But anyway, after that, enjoy the day. That's really just the carpe diem. That's just the underlining tone of what we need to deal with day to day, and take a big sigh. What really sparked this whole conversation was I saw a video earlier, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, but I was trying to figure out, well, what should be my topic? I mean, I always, Shop Talk Tuesday, you want a topic, that kind of thing. And I was like, well, maybe I should go with, who is the weakest link in your bike shop? Well, that got overturned by Chicken Little screaming at the top of their head and the sky's falling, because we got some serious issues up ahead, and you as a consumer, you as a bike shop, you as an independent bike shop, or somebody that just likes to ride bikes, is going to be affected by what's happening at some point, and that's kind of scary to me. And I've been doing this for a long time, and I shouldn't be scared. I should be like, oh, we can go do this and do this now and be just fine. Well, we've all pulled all the levers, the oh shit levers, and we're at the point where there's no more levers to pull. We're taking some of our successes and trying to capitalize on all that as much as possible, being diverse as a small independent bike shop. Same thing with the big boys. And for cyclists, you're in the same boat. I mean, we're all here, right, as a community, and we're affected by the economical strains that we're in the States, and a lot of this is the United States inside perspective. So if you're watching this from outside the borders, number one, sorry. And number two, I hope you're having a little better success with price of eggs and everything else in your neck of the woods. Because right here, it is a total crap show, and we are just having a hard time trying to navigate it. And basically, a lot of us are just uncomfortable daily. And believe us that, if we would like definitely a different outcome here soon, and a better straighten itself out, or there's going to be a lot more problems down the road for all of us. But in any case, going into business, going into the cycling community, mainly the cycling community, is what I'm going to try to touch upon and talk about. Is, well, will my shop survive all of this? And well, it has so far. I've had some bump in the road, several bumps in the road, but it has definitely conformed to something completely different than what it started off 5 years ago. Concept began with refurbishing nice little road bikes and providing them for people to getting into road riding, because the market for new was very expensive for road riding specifically. So that was my whole venture starting, and it was fun. Getting people excited about riding, getting into cycling, upselling to the next level, that kind of thing, without spending the absorbent amount of money that they're asking for at new prices. Well, that's transformed several different ways. Well, one is you're seeing me on a social media platform, YouTube and Facebook, and yes, that in itself is turned off into its own direction, as well a lot of the shops have done, and kind of leverage those in different directions to help diversify our community, our business model, however you want to call it. But what we're looking at is the change, and there's been a lot of change in my little micro shop from doing refurbishing bikes to more service, and now a lot of service to I buy bikes and then I'm breaking them down and selling the parts and frames, and that's become a lot lesser piece of my business, and service has taken up a larger portion of that because that's where the demand is. I mean, business 101 is you got to go where the demand is, or you're just not going to stay in business. I mean, yeah, I've taken a couple of courses here and there. I'm not a business major by any means, but I've been in retail business for the last 35 years and went through part of that through a big box chain where they do all the training from the beginning of management to supervisor to all the way up to the CEO. So you basically get your whole retail 101 business from all aspects from just working from them. Now it's Big Five Sporting Goods. They're a self-promoting company. So in any case, I lived it, breathed it. I'm doing this more of a passion piece. It's definitely not here for the paycheck. This is something I like to share. And what really makes me feel, nervous about is a lot of shops I've worked with over the years, and in the shops, as well as working through their software programs that help them manage their inventory through Retail Toolkit, which I had a 3 to 5 year stint-ish in there. And with that being said, I've developed relationships with these shops across the nation, big and small. And a lot of them are just, passionate people that love bikes. And the owners love it, and they built it up, and some of them were very successful, and now they're being extremely crippled by our economical state of the state. So that being said, if you're in a shop, if you're listening to me, I know this is kind of doom and gloom, but I'm going to try to put a little funnier twist on it because, that nervous laugh that everybody does. If you can't laugh about it, you might as well just cry. And I'm all teared out. So, any case, I'm waxing the chain behind me. For example, I'm keeping myself busy. Going to be refurbishing this bike. I've decided to take this beautiful Klein and do a detailing of the frame, clean the parts. It has hardly been used, and get it in good rideable shape. This is one of those where it actually makes more sense to keep it as a full bike than to part it out. And also the size of it is pretty teeny, so it'll be a shorter individual getting one spectacular fast Klein aluminum bike. But in any case, and it has one of those colors. I might feature that here shortly. The colors change in the sun. That's super, super beautiful. But in any case, if you're seeing some disruption within your neck of the woods, please chime in the chat. If you're watching this on the replay, feel free to put some comments below. Tell us what your shops are doing in your neck of the woods. How are they doing? If you have still favorite shops, or you are in a shop and you're like, well, we found some successes here doing this, or our business has shifted this direction quite a bit. And there's still positive things that are going on. People are still getting in the gravel riding. I have a little story about that, and I'll say that in a minute. Also, the e-bike thing is still flourishing between service and also the new bikes there. And there's some topic news pieces I've touched upon looking at, which will be very interesting to discuss with you, the community, and feel free to chime in. Noah, thanks for joining in. I hope I'm coming in loud and clear, and all of you are piling in and watching the train wreck as we speak. Not in the shop, but we'll talk about it around us. That's my coffee's got cold. Anyway, cold coffee, warm coffee, it's still coffee. It still works. So I'm waxing a chain behind me. The process of that was brand new chain out of the box. This is a Connex chain, which you can probably see some in the on the right of me, which left of you. Are pre-waxed chains for service bikes, as well as for customers and also for resale. And the process for me is basically I put it in a jar completely saturated with simple green, straight simple green, put it in ultrasonic cleaner, which is a new ultrasonic cleaner, which works almost too well. For 5 minutes, then I rinse it out, swap it out with rubbing alcohol, and then once it goes through its 5-minute process in ultrasonic cleaner, it is pretty much manufactured grease-free for the most part. And for me, what I do, if you're into wax chains or doing it yourself, I have a two-pot system. The reason why I have a two-pot system is, one, I call it the dirty wax, and the other one is the cleaner wax. The dirty wax, I have videos in my library, so check them out. How to set this up. I put a little, it's actually a bath drain strainer thing that fits perfectly inside here to keep the sediment down. The concept of the strip chip from Silka is basically cranking the heat up. So this is at the max it is at 203. The hotter it is, it's gonna, anything that's still left on the chain that's from the manufacturer is kind of gonna melt off per se. The strip chip is an additive from Silka, which is not in this, by the way. It's a byproduct you can use yourself. But the idea is to crank up the temperature really high and really kind of penetrate and, you know, basically melts off that's anything that's in there. It probably would work without the strip chip or without even cleaning the chain, but the process is I want to try to get most of that, if not all of that, manufactured grease off without compromising the chain to where it rusts. There's the fine line. So when in doubt, go with a little sticky versus no sticky and it starts rusting in the linkages. Even though this is a stainless steel chain, but not all of them are, and sometimes in the inside rollers and so forth, little tech tip there, they will rust if you clean them too much. And I'm in an arid climate, so even for me when they rust here. So if you're in more of a humid climate, really be mindful of that. So the reason being, if it's still a little sticky, which this one isn't really sticky, but if it's still just a little bit of attack of grease on there, that's probably better. And do the two-pot system. And the heat one will kind of shed it. And then I'll put it in there for like 5 or 10 minutes. And then we let it strain off. And then I put it in the clean wax, not the dirty wax. Don't put your head there. In the clean wax. And let that sit in there at a lower temperature. I'll put that at 150. And what that does is the chain cools down and the wax kind of puts more of a layer, but it starts off hot so it actually penetrates more and flushes out. And then once you hang it up, then let it dry go up to room temperature for about an hour. And once it gets to that point, it's super, super stiff. So you got a stiff chain. Then what I do on the flip side of it, I roll through one of these clean without being used by degreasing, just this was brand new, and I run it through there, and that helps breaks up the linkages from that wax, so it's a little more pliable, so it makes it a lot easier to install onto the bike. But then again, when you ride on that bike, you're gonna need about 5 miles of light shifting to shed the rest of that wax off. But once you get to that buttery smooth 5-mile mark, it's quiet, it shifts smoothly, and all that. Just the little side thing I'm doing here, a little tech tip to add to the chaos. Chris Scott, thank you for joining. Klein Bikes, excellent paint jobs. Oversized aluminum frames have been sexy for decades. Yep. I have a whole video on Gary Klein. I haven't got to interview him or meet him in person. But we were a Klein dealer back in the Parker Bikes day, and I remember these when they were new. And I remember when Trek acquisitioned Klein. Basically, Klein was having some financial issues, and Trek needed. They were not, according to John Bradley, they were not producing to their max capacity in Waterloo, Wisconsin. They were building Treks, but they can build more than Treks. So they started acquiring Klein, Gary Fisher, Le Mans, the whole thing. Any case, that's how I got exposed to them. And Gary is not like he didn't came from the race circuit like Le Mans name or Gary Fisher from the grandfather of mountain biking. Gary Klein was an engineer at MIT. He actually had a grant to develop this aluminum tubing, which is called granular tube process or something of that nature. So it's a mix alloys to actually, it's a higher grade. He also used Boeing aircraft aluminum. Being in Chehalis, Washington, really close to Seattle, where Boeing plant was, he was able to leverage that in his early stage of the business. And he was always known for his paint jobs. The paint on this was like 8 to 10 times more expensive than your standard paint. And this one had definitely different acetone kind of look to it. One of the prettier paint jobs on there. My favorite one was called, well, now I can't remember, Purple Haze, I'm sorry. Playing the words off of, not Jimi Hendrix, one of those Rasta style. Somebody comment below. You know what I'm talking about. Yeah. Excuse me. So anyway, a little bit of history that I'm going to be working on this. I will shoot a video. That's why I haven't started on it yet. I'm going to want to start a video doing the whole process of cleaning this particular Klein up and also correcting the paint and making, I mean, come on. If you're going to do a detailing video on a bike paint job, this is the colored and paint job to do it. This bad boy is like 25 years old, so we're going to fix up the clear coat as much as we can. I'm not restoring, I'm refurbishing, two different things, but we're going to make it as best possible, put an USA ceramic coating on that to make it stellar. It needs a new chain. The tires on it are really skinny. I'm going to put a little bit wider tires on there. Hopefully I can get a 28 to be snuck on there. And probably a little bit bigger cassette because the cassette's pretty small. So I'm going to do some detailing portion of it and do some new tape and all that. Just give it a lot of love because this bike actually has gotten a lot of love from the previous rider, and they're just at the point now they're not comfortable on skinny wheel tires. So they're transitioning to a different type of cycling, which a lot of us older lads and ladies are going to have to do the same thing at some point. So this is where she entrusted me to do this also to make sure it goes to a good home. In any case, a lot of people, they name their bikes, oddly enough, right? And they actually, it's part of their experience. And that's what makes cycling so cool, along with a lot of other different things that people do. I'm sure people name their snowboards and skis and snowshoes and all that. But, you know, bikes, it's part of the journey, right? In any case, CB750, yes. Yeah, saw Ken International as pause China imports. Yeah, that, well, through Metam, I did a video on them, which is owned by Kent International. Kent International is huge, if you don't know. They produce and provide a lot of bikes to Walmart and Trek, Sports Academy, and various other companies for retail outlet chains. Also Big Five Sporting Goods that I worked with carried Kent, and they'll have different names underneath the Kent umbrella. And if you don't know, the bike industry, I mean, a lot of us that do a lot of cycling, for the most part, just know of bike shops and so forth. But the real big chunk of it, and this has been for decades now, even back in the 90s, where Walmart and Target were the 80 Kmart back then, and Woolworth, you know, whatever, Sears. They are the 80 to 90% of the actual bikes units being sold in the United States. So that being said, there are huge numbers and so forth. If you look up some of they had an interview, I forget which outlet had it. I saw it on YouTube. I'll see if I can find it and I'll put it in the description alone later, about how they were talking about, they've been around, it was kind of like a family business, now they've gotten big and now they're really affected by this and the cost of everything so much, they basically shut down any bikes coming in, which is huge. So therefore you're going to see a trickle effect go in here shortly, since our ports are basically dried up from any imports, and that is the products that are rolling in to fill those shelves. Will we see it today? No. Tomorrow? No. Next week? Maybe a little. It's going to be a 3 or 4 week process because it takes that much amount of time for bikes to hit the port, or any product to hit the port and get distributed to the warehouse and allocated to the retail front. So it is a whole process. The problem is, as long as the delay now, if I was going to put a number on it, and yes, there was like some positive news, but it's still nervous news because it's a pause. It's not like, oh, we're going to stick with this and go forward. No business can make any big decisions if they're sitting on like maybe in 3 months it's going to go total crap again. So they have to be very reserved and make decisions on that. So it's unnerving. It's really bad for business to you can't do business. So here's the trickle effect that's going on and how I see it, and being in industry and seeing how long it takes bikes to be built in overseas, to put on ships, get on water, get to us, goes through customs, be allocated to warehouses, then gets to the stores, and then the stores build them up, and then it gets to the sales floor. Well, that lag time, we're talking easily 2 months, probably. If you have more insights on that, let me know. But there's a delay. That's the point. There's a huge delay. So we're starting the beginning of that delay. So if even everything got rectified by the end of this week, it's still going to take 2-3 months to readjust. On top of our supply chain disruption that we're still recovering from the COVID over and under. So there alludes a lot of troublesome waters ahead. So looking at international as a barometer of how things are going. Yes, there's specifically from a country that had the highest tariffs. But when you look at all the other countries that build bikes for the bigger, more known brands, as to say, there's Vietnam, Cambodia, Taiwan, and various other places still have tariffs on them, and the tariffs that they have are still cutting into their profits on there. Okay, so that's one perspective of it, and double check my time. So yeah, when you're waxing, kind of Tourette's going on here, about halfway the time you want to put in there, you want to like agitate it, move it around. That's why I use a good old bent up spoke as my little hangers. You can use various other things, whatever's wax and heat safe, that kind of thing. And also wear gloves for safety and try not to burn yourself. As all kids, we played with candle wax. Well, maybe not today because they don't allow to have them. Anyway, candles on birthday cake, you always played with it, that kind of thing. It's kind of fun in any case. But great point. Everybody's like, oh, we're going to talk about that. Well, that alludes to a lot of other things. And some people, how do you feel about department store bikes? That's really not the case. It's really the product lines. And then it carries over to all the other stuff that we're going to need just for general basics, that kind of thing. I mean, people are still going to ride their bikes. Let's put it that way. Went for a ride yesterday. People all over the place riding their bikes. It's great. It's beautiful. It's springtime. People are riding their bikes. I'm having service, a lot of service coming in. Doing great. People are out there riding bikes. So that's a little bit of a gold nugget there for a lot of shops. And also, if you like your shop, get some service scheduled. They're busier, but as in years past, they're not as busy as they should be. And I'll talk about that in a second too with my experience at the local shop here. But anyway, the Schwinn Den, which must be Denver. Would that be like the West Side Schwinn kind of thing? Back in the day when Schwinn was the big name of the 70s and the 80s, where instead of Trek stores, there were Schwinn stores, like Woodside Schwinn. My neighbor, actually, she worked at Woodside Schwinn, which is crazy. Small world. We all go through little things. Yeah, good afternoon. Well, it's still morning here, but hey, so you're neck of the woods, and if it's drinking time for you, pick up yours. Drink them if you got them. That dude. Oh, I love the name. That's pretty good. Taylor's going to make a good use entry-level bike market. Interesting. Higher ceiling you can operate under. Well, maybe. Well, the bike market, and it's always, we've gotten to the point where we're starting to grow again. It's like boom, bust. Now we're kind of doing this thing, growing again. That's with all booms and busts. I mean, I've been through several downturn economy in the United States. You know, there was one in the 90s and a big one in the 2000s, 2006, 2007. The big housing market debacle, which you know had nothing to do with bikes, but affected everything. So, and then there was like a metal shortage or something, and all of a sudden, like your dumbbell weights are like 4 times more. You had to reprice those. I remember that back in the day, working at Big Five, we sold weights and all that, raw materials. And then you go into, you know, today and the disruption, and dude is talking about the Rocky Mountain. Rocky Mountain is a company that's Canadian company, and they were primarily known for mountain bikes. And I worked at Lee Cycling where we carried Rocky Mountains, really cool bikes, really cool company, smaller, of course, kind of like the America's version of Kona, kind of, not the same exactly, so don't get all mad. But it was one of those things, they had their version of the Canadians' version of running bankruptcy. I forget which chapter it is here in the States, but it's like you're not totally under, but you're like pushing your creditors away for a little bit. And they did that, and it blew the whole, the investment companies come in. I haven't read the article yet. I need to read the article to find out exactly who bought them. But hopefully it's not an investment company that turns and burns. There's been a lot of those over the years. The one that bought Kona prior, and then all of a sudden train wrecked it, and the original owners of Kona bought back their company. Like, okay, you messed it up. We're done with you. So time to, you know, give it back because you definitely pooched it up. Canadell, dude. Nice. Thank you for chiming in. Thoughts on the tariffs? I work at a shop, and QBP, Trek, Giant, etc. have made internal announcements about price rises. QBP has laid off a few people also. Sorry. Allergies, man. They're just like getting me. So yes, I'm gonna dive down on Canadell Dude's perspective, because let's pick on QBP first. Not pick on as mean, just pick QBP first. Sorry, don't want to be mean. I'm not a mean person, said the mean person. So QBP, Quality Bike Products. I talked to one of the reps at the bike show at Cabda in Vegas, and I mean it's always. I mean, I worked in shops. We bought from QBP. If you don't know what QBP is, they're a wholesaler of parts and bikes and some stuff and that kind of thing. That's where a lot of us got our tubes, tires, chains, cables, all stuff for service, as well as products to go on the floor, that kind of thing. So they're a wholesaler that brought in all these products from various countries and companies and so forth, and then they were the outlet to sell it to all the local bike shops, independent bike dealers, as well as the corporate stores today. They still buy from them too, as well as talking to some of the service guys there. So they've been having some troubles. They've been having troubles for a lot. A lot of these companies have been having troubles. So let's just put it that way. QBP specifically had a few layoffs to shrink down their warehouse. I think they moved 1 or 2 of them, if not closed one. They also bought that Barnett School and closed that. And Barnett's used to be a school in Colorado Springs where all the mechanics, that's where you learn to become a mechanic, and for a lot of people, and then work for bike shops. Well, they bought the school with high aspirations, and they basically saw no money in it or had to do cuts, and boom, that got put in a chopping block. I think that was about a year ago. All these you can read in Bicycle Retailer magazine. So you just put in QBP, and there'll be a laundry list of things that have been going on, and layoffs and so forth with that. They're not the only ones. When you look at Trek, they had the right size. That was a year ago. But they've had several layoffs, newer retirement, forced retirements, all the kind of readjustments. And also to Canadell Dude's point, Giant is released this spring, as well as Merida, which owns 35% of Specialized, showed a huge down. I have a video on that if you want a little more detail on that. So this thing has been going on for like a couple years. I mean, it started when Specialized dropped their pants on prices 2.5 years ago or a year and a half ago, somewhere around there. I remember it was in the fall. And it took a while for Trek to decide to do it. Yeah, it's been 2.5 years now. So we've been in this disruptive readjustment for all these companies. And now they have to raise their prices or absorb the costs on their products, which is basically punch you while you're down. Like, it's not good for a lot of these companies. And thanks for chiming in because, I see it. Well, I'm in a bike shop, but I don't have these vendors. So I'm not hearing from straight source from reps that I don't have telling me that there are problems. But I can tell you for sure when I was talking to a lot of those companies at CABDA, everybody they were putting a good face on. Like, yeah, we're doing good. That nervous smile. Like, shit, am I going to have a job next week? Kind of thing. So we all know it. It's like we need to talk about it and we need to navigate it and we need to share. Every company needs to share how they're going to navigate and their positive, what's worked for them, and maybe that can translate to other shops, especially amongst us independent bike dealers. Saw a video this morning. Let's just dive into that, and that kind of ties into this. Well, maybe I'll do a couple shout outs here. Lucky Studio 13. I would like to invest in some tools and learn how to maintain my own bikes. Is Park Tools the only worthy investment, or just others off-brand tools are good enough for home use? Okay. Lucky you're talking to the right guy. I'm just kidding. Had to throw it in there. Part tune stands is $480. Yeah, off of less than $250. Okay, so all right, this is gonna be a little sidebar on tools, and if you not notice, is you have a whole tool wall behind me. Tool walls, a lot of those is Park, but that was on deliberately done to make my tool wall matchy-matchy. Functionality of it and cost of those tools, you do not need to do the same thing. I did it more because I was selfish and I wanted a really cool tool wall. That's really all it is. It's more cool looking than function. Because if you're just a novice that's going to be working on your own bikes a couple times here and there, not really get too down in the weeds, but you want to have a tool just in case if you need to do adjustment on a bottom bracket or a headset or something other than the spectrum of a small toolkit, there alludes, you can get it a little bit cheaper process. And this is the process I would highly recommend is JensonUSA. I have a link down below. I think I have a post in the YouTube as well as Facebook of a toolkit that they sell. It's Foundries, Founders. I forget what they call their house brand. But anyway, it's a toolkit. It's like $100. It has all your basic stuff. Like it has cone wrenches, some bottom bracket stuff, even a chain cleaner, some other various things. That's a pretty inexpensive lift to start off with. Okay, and all the other tools, once you're watching videos and like you want to do this and that, you don't have to buy the most expensive headset press or dropout alignment tool or anything of that nature. Reason being is how often are you going to use those? As a mechanic working on bikes every day, some of these tools I only use like once every 3 months. Is that worth the spend, that $500 on a truing stand where you're just going to use only a couple times? Then that's where the inexpensive plays. So what I'm trying to say is you start off with the inexpensive kit, put it up or wherever you have space for or utilize it or just keep it in the kit. And the tools you start using more of and you start maybe wearing out a little bit and need a little more investment, like Allen's is usually one. I have 3 sets of Allen's. I got a set over here, which were the Wera, W-E-R-A brand, German steel, has a weird little different pattern to them. I have the Parks here, and I also bought the fancy dancy high quality Silka one, which they, if you listen to Josh at Silka, he's like, oh, we have high tension precisions and so forth. Not to mock him, but I mean, he's a pretty cool guy, but so he definitely is a salesman. But between the three, if I come across a stubborn Allen, which, you know, sometimes you get, and if you muff it up, you're in a world of hurt for a long time, you want to make sure you have an option, another Allen to fit in there and maybe break it loose. That's why I have 3 different sets, because I'm using one of these every day and almost every hour on the hour. So there loads the explanation of when you buy tools, you don't always have to buy the most expensive one. You can buy something that just is designed to work and use it once, put it back in your toolbox, and maybe see it again 2 or 3 years later. I bought some classic tools just because I wanted to. I have not used them yet, and I had them over a year, and I spent over $400 on them, just for more show and tell versus anything else. So you can go down the tool rabbit hole, and tools are expensive. Case in point, these are a ton. You don't need to do that. Unless you have the money, if you have the funds, go with Park. But you don't have to stick with Park. Pedro's makes some really nice tools. Feedback Sports makes some really nice tools. They also have a really nice kit. So you can mix and match. Even I have some in mix match. You got some Pedro's there, Parks, you got your standard files from whatever. I actually have some Snap-on tools too, you know, to tie into all of that. So it's still, even though it's mostly blue, it still has a little bit of sprinkles of different brands. Case point there. So hopefully that helps you out there, Lucky, and hopefully that shares out to other people that are starting that there as well. Randy, thank you for joining. You're never late, you're just fashionably on time, right? Anyway, let's go back up. We were talking again. Yeah, I saw a video this morning that changed my whole topic from this morning, and that was, yeah, some of you guys watch them, some of you guys love them, some of you guys hate them. That's the bike farmer. He came up with one about the bike shops having, you know, am I going to survive? Is his shop going to survive? And, you know, a lot of his videos are about working on bikes and so forth, and he jibber jabbers, and so similar to mine kind of thing. We've been confused before and past before I got my hair cut last year. So I used to have long hair, looked like too much the same, and I made a funny video about I'm not the bike farmer. But in any case, he had some very valid points, and this is one of the first ones I've watched in a while because, you know, I'm already doing it all the time. I'm not going to be watching his videos because it'd be just like watching myself doing my own stuff, and I do that already editing my videos, so it's a little too much for me. But he was talking about the topic piece, and he was talking about tariffs, and actually hearing from him, because he has wholesalers and suppliers that he's buying from, and having a hard time getting supply chain parts. Well, he hit on a couple things where I've been mentioning, if you've been watching my channel at all, or you know, want to watch some of the other videos about bike shops and how to leverage our current, or even before this, the used market has been ripe for the picking for a lot of us. Reason being is we have still a ton of inventory. Not a bunch of people are buying it yet, and you know, that gives opportunities for bike shops like mine and various other shops, and even bigger shops that have started incorporating used quite a bit because it's easy to get. They can keep their mechanics busy of putting it together, providing a price point value bike to get people out there, which 90% of us don't need the high-end stuff. We just need a good bike that shifts and stops and puts a smile on our face. That's it, and that fits good, really. And the fit part is actually the beginning. So in any case, the used market is, we have a huge warehouse of inventory on your Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist right out your door if you live in a more metropolitan area. Me, I am. It's kind of like a front range. There's millions of people here. And bikes that now are being used. And a lot of people here, huge into cycling, they have multiple bikes, and sometimes they've gone to the next one, and guess what? Those have been sitting there for the last decade or two. Case in point, this guy right here. That's an opportunity. But here is the pinch point. Those particular used bikes usually need a good tune-up, usually need some parts. Most of the time, the parts that we get are new. Case in point, there's nothing on the docks. In other words, that affects our chains, cables, tires, tubes, all the things, bar wrap, saddles, to make these things run. So I hope it doesn't get so bad that we're constantly buying used bikes just for the parts. Oh wait, I'm kind of doing that already. In any case, Not like, some of the cables, the lower price points. I mean, okay, a $2 cable, you can pay $5 because you just need it. That's not too bad. You can absorb that. And tires, a little bit more expensive there. But a lot of these smaller parts have been kind of squirreled away or over. They've had too much of this inventory for a while. Jenson's had like SRAM chains on sale for, I don't know, for the last 3 or 4 years. I keep buying them from them because it's always on sale. And lower MSRP. They're just using it as a loss leader. Then you can have companies that are going to use those loss leaders anyway. But in any case, you can still find some of those parts and so forth. Well, going back to the bike farmer, he's talking about his main supplier, that where he gets those things. Well, he may have to start, well, I can't get it from because I don't have it. Either he's getting it from Quality or J&B or whatever his vendor is using. And if they don't have it, he's going to have to buy it at retail off of one of the other companies out there, like Jenson's or Competitive Cyclists or 365 Cycles, which, by the way, those two, Competitive Cyclists and 365 Cycles, basically use QBP as their warehouse to sell parts. Can you see? Whoa, wait a second. So you're going to see stuff out there that's like not going to be available as in small parts to fix up bikes for bikes to be resold at bike shops, as well as you, this avid cyclist that goes, I need a new chain. So it's going to be a point where you may not get the chain that you want, but you're still going to be able to find a chain, and you're going to have to pay a lot more for it. That just sounds too like a dead ringer of stuff I've been hearing on the news. In any case, there's that alludes to the huge pain point of a lot of bike shops, especially when they carry new. Also, a farmer mentioned he bought new bikes and they're still sitting there after a year or two. This is the case in point on a lot of shops. Their inventory is not moving. There's nobody buying it. Even if it's discounted, they have not been buying it because the stuff has been discounted for a while now. And you're looking at Trek and Specialized and Giant, same thing. Pon, same thing as well. So in Pon Holdings, if you don't know, they own Canadel, Cervelo. They used to own GT, but let that line go. Also Mongoose and Schwinn, and up to like 50 different companies that they carried in any case. So quite a few. So they've been doing adjustments a little bit before this as well. And they also have Mike's Bikes, which is a small chain. Allude to Specialized as well as Trek owning their own corporate stores. It used to be a big battleground. Now they're all like, oh shit, we got to close these stores down because we can't, this is not working for us anymore. Yeah, right? If you just, you got to laugh, nervously because you just would cry. I mean, it's just insane. How's that affecting smaller shops? Well, a lot of shops, independent, really leaned into their communities, which is great, which, they've been doing that. A lot of them doing that for a long time. And the cycling community is still there because they're still riding, but they just don't have the confidence of purchasing. And they're all, even if they have money, they're nervous about their money. So it's just a situation where they're going to be very conscientious of their purchasing from here on out. That being said, they're not going to be buying that big ticket item. They're not going to be buying those. They'll get their bikes tuned up, and they're going to be mindful of where they get it tuned up or how many they're going to get tuned up or what's going to be done to them as they're being tuned up. They're not going to buy that premium package. They're just going to go, just do the basics, just to get me through this season. And there alludes, oh, you need a new chain. We got 3 levels of chain, the cheapest one. That's where you're going to be hearing. And that's where you're going to be seeing from the bike shops and so forth. I've seen it. The people I've worked on bikes, they're avid cyclists, and they're being conscientious. But they also know they want to invest in something. They're going to invest into their bike because that's what gives them sanity and exercise and all those good things. Like we've always talked about before in the cycling community, it's like it's good to go out for a ride, get your head out of it and just enjoy the day and do that kind of thing, which is true. And cycling is one of those mental health things that people are willing to put money into. A lot of people still look at bicycles as toys. Some people look at us bike mechanics as just hobbyists, some is true and some is not. These are vehicles. They're the most efficient vehicle that's on Earth, and the bike mechanics have go through a lot of training, especially on the newer stuff, to keep those things moving and going forward. And then the market's changed with the e-bike specifically into more of the commuter realm, which there already was, but now it's doubled down on it. So all of a sudden, instead of having that second or third car, they're dropping down to one, saving some money on a car payment, gas and insurance and all that, getting an e-bike, which makes a lot more sense. And there's still some rebates out there, incentives to buy those, and then use that for the warmer season commuting. So it's no longer a toy, is it? No, it's a vehicle. Always has been a vehicle. We just think of it as toys because a lot of us grew up on those little BMX bikes and ran around the track in neighborhoods and terrorized the neighbors, put in, the clothesline clip of the bulk cards and made a whole bunch I had one kid in here in the neighborhood, Tommy. I don't know what he has in his spokes when he goes by, but it is loud. Like, so, hey, it's summer. Kids out riding their bikes. It's awesome. So what I'm trying to get back to is there is the community for cycling. There's still people riding. They're just not going to be spending money. And we have a huge, the used market is even there because nobody's buying the used bikes yet. And a lot of people are afraid to buy used already anyway because they're worried about the technicality of it, getting it fixed up and so forth. But I can tell you, even though if you buy a used bike, take it to your local shop, get it tuned up and add some parts to it, you're still going to be way below that particular price point of new. And if there's a shop that does inexpensive fitting or including fittings, that's a good thing to make sure you have the best experience possible out of the gate. Kind of think, I forgot about my chain, I need to move it over. All right, so super hot, so wear gloves. So I'm taking it out of my dirty wax and I kind of let it drain. And since it's at a higher temperature, it's going to shed a lot faster and drain off. So whatever mixed contaminants on there is going to be pretty much fall off the chain itself. And then these containers are, you can use crock pots a little bit easier, that kind of thing. But if you use the smaller containers, even like the Silka has their own. If you do this little wiggle dance with the spoke here, you can get the chain to fold up on itself without burning yourself and getting wax all over your fingers. And then it's in the cool down wax. And there you go. I'll go ahead and turn off my hot dirty wax. And the cool wax at 150. And so once it cools down, it's going to leave a little more of a layer, more of that grayness on the chain, and that's what you want, is adhering to it. But then you have this little hanger here. You probably can't see it very well, but this hanger here is basically a bag holder from Amazon. It's like a display bag holder. It's like $14. Or what I was using before is the pegboard and a big hook that stuck out, and you just hang it there too. So there's some workarounds, so you don't have to buy the $100 and $110 Silka wax system. You can if you want. It's all there, ready to go. The 2-pot system, this is actually a wax warmer for waxing your bits on your body. So it's like kitty something. Same stuff, works well. The cost of that was a third of the cost of the Silka one, and I got 2 pots out of it. So needless to say, you can do that. Or if you want a single one that's nice specifically for wax, the Vital chains. After this, I'll put a link below. They have their own version of the pot that Silka has. It's just kind of probably made in the same place. I think those are about 40 or $50, a little bit cheaper. And he also has little kits that you can get. So under $100, you can get a kit from him with the wax and everything, just to get up and going. Silka has theirs, but the kit's way more expensive. So anyway, in any case, there's a lot of us taking advantage of, inexpensive stuff and putting it together for people to get you into whatever kind of waxing you want to do. And if you want to get some extra cylinders and put in body wax, more power to you. You want to take care of that, that 70s bush or whatever it is that you want to take care of. Anyway, back to point. So typically I put in the wax 5 minutes. I know I've been talking about like 20. It's not going to damage the chain at all. It's just sitting there. And on the cooler wax, I don't turn it off as it becomes solidified in the whole chunk in itself pretty quick. But I live in about 5 or 10 minutes and gives a nice good coating. Agitate it too on both ones, like get about halfway and you kind of squish it around. It kind of just moves the wax around. Also, the whatever wax you use, there's usually some kind of a graphite component to it where you need to agitate that to kind of mix in the wax again because that stuff settles a bit. So, any case, whew, that was a long jibber jabber. All right. Yeah, Candle, do you have a point about when you think about Trek and their interesting tactics regarding shops? I mean, they did a very aggressive move purchasing shops at the beginning. I mean, Lee Cycler is the shop. I worked here locally, and it was one of the first to be acquisitioned by Trek, and it was horribly done. But in any case, they learned over all the other ones of the acquisition to the point that they value employees, especially current employees, and how to work that into their mix. So they learned, but it's still corporate. Although there's a few employees that worked at Lee's, still works at the Trek store, and it's been over 5 years now. So, case in point, they're doing okay. Unaided foot. Thank you for commenting. Thank you for chiming in. Thank you for watching. Yeah, that's an awesome Klein. Yeah. So this is not my wife's bike, but she has one very similar. And even though she doesn't ride that much, she will not let me sell it because of the damn paint job. It's so pretty. Matter of fact, when I bought it, it was not necessarily for her. It was for me to refurbish 4 years ago. And I was taking some pictures of it outside, and she popped out and goes, "Ooh, that's pretty." And I'm like, "Yeah, it sure is." And she goes, "Is that my size?" And I was like, "Yes." So never made it a market. And she just likes it because it's pretty. And every time she gets on it in the sun, it's like just this whole like, "Ooh, it's so shiny." But if you know my wife, she likes sparkling things anyway. So that's how it is. So yeah. All right, got some good comments here. Forbidden Colossus. Interesting. Interesting name. I mean, I was just now starting to read your comment here. Oh, the Klein, there was a green Klein Pinnacle bike featured on Seinfeld. Yep, I've been looking for one of those just to hang over here, just for fun. Haven't found one yet. That color. I'll just use my wife's to hang up there. Right now, my Le Mans hanging up there now. Not as pretty, but it's its own thing. Okay. A hobby to 90s steel mountain bikes. Better finishing on parts like brake levers. Yeah. So the 90s bikes, those hold a special place in my heart because I used to mountain bike race novice. No, not good at all, but I enjoyed it back in the 90s. And steel was Mongoose used Richie Tubey steel on their Mongoose Pro Team SX model back in the day. I was able to get one of those frames, and it was phenomenal. Still looking for one now. I'm just so mad that I sold it, for sure. All right. Yeah, there's public option. That dude you're talking about, like, there's public auctions for some bikes and so forth. Usually they're kind of train wreck. Some people do like those storage unit buys, that kind of thing, that kind of deal. But honestly, there's so many. I mean, in my neck of the woods, for sure, there's so many used bikes in the market on Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist that if you're willing to fish for a while, not be in a rush, something will pop up and it will be your size and to your liking and not in too bad shape. I mean, they're out there. I see them. I'm just not in that market aggressively anymore. I do see them. I still look, but I'm not purchasing right now because I'm doing more service and you guessed it, watching me here on the social media platforms like YouTube and Facebook. So, hey, yeah, I tried the volume thing. It would have been still working really well, humming along, but I'm getting a little older. I want to shift, and there's only so long until these hands can keep working on bikes. So I don't want to burn myself in that perspective. So I'm taking a little more of I want to say pseudo step back-ish. I mean, it's still working on bikes daily, but just not aggressive, which is kind of nice for sure. Yeah, it's a good way to source newer quality. That's where, see, like when you look at the Pros Closet, they came back rebranded, and you'd think they'd be a little more lower price point. They're not. Their price points on their bikes are still way high. Therefore, there's still a great, huge opportunity for the mid-range, $400 or $500 market to $1,500 market for any local bike shop or former mechanic or current mechanic to take an opportunity for that market whatsoever. And I tell you what, those employees that are working at the corporate stores, they are having a side hustle of flipping their own classic bikes as long as it doesn't interfere with their agreement of working at the corporate store. Oh, no, you switched over from traditional lube to chain wax. You've been quite pleased. That's great to hear. And a lot less messy. I mean, the messy part is doing this part, but once that's done, it doesn't get on your hands. I had one person comment in one of my videos, like, I waxed my whole family's bikes worth of chains because not necessarily performance, it is mainly the less mess. I mean, your kids are not smearing around your house because, they get on their leg and they jump all over the furniture and all of a sudden you have these grease marks everywhere. I mean, I have a 9-year-old. You're not fast enough to keep up with the mess what they provide. So there it is. Anybody that has kids' bikes, wax those chains. Just wax them. Just do it. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for chiming in. A lot of people have converted over from my customers and also new bikes and that kind of thing. And I sold quite a few so far of the pre-wax chains through my website. A lot of people have been really digging it. And once you figure out they have a drip version. Silica has their own little version of it. Connex has their own. Squirt is another brand, I think. It's expensive for a small bottle of it, but you don't use a lot. And this is the same exact stuff. This is emulsified with water, 10%. Therefore, you're putting the same stuff on there. Put a drip on there, lube, rotate it, massage the chain in there. Once I have a video on that too, how to refresh it. Check my library. Also, if I remember, I'll put it in the comments below or in the description. And that basically refresh your chain. You don't have to do the whole heated wax portion of it, and then you just have to do that maybe once a year or maybe twice, that kind of thing. All right, I think our chain is done. And what we're looking for, it's kind of hard to tell on stainless steel chains, but woo, still a little toasty. And then if you're in doubt, you can just let it hang and let it cool for a little bit, and you can redunk it. But I'm getting like little, like on the bottom links, it's kind of, you're seeing like that, I forget the scientific word, but it's when you have water that kind of bubbles up, kind of crests the bottom links, and then you're good to go. Then you let that sit, let that dry, and about an hour later, your chain will be very stiff. This is a little smaller version of it. Then that's why you use that chain cleaner to kind of massage that wax, and it'll flake out. And that way it's a little more pliable to put on to the drivetrain and a little bit easier. So a little side note on that. For Forbidden Colossus. I'm butchering that. I am sorry. Yeah, he's saying in the chat here, as a shop owner, it doesn't make sense to sell new bicycles when there is more profit in upselling and selling refurbished used bikes. So, oh, that's a question. Absolutely. There's a couple shops. There's a few on YouTube. You can watch their videos. It's all they do is use bikes and parts and service, and they're actually having a very good profitable year the last 2 years. So case in point, there's one shop I used to be affiliated with through Retail Toolkit. They're in Wisconsin. They have like 9 or 10 stores. The owner, I had some conversation with the owner, and he's saying he's increased his floor footprint of 10 to 15% of used bikes on the sales floor versus new. Well, they're a big dealer. They sell a lot of new bikes, but for them to really kind of cut into that and really double down on it, and they have doubled down on it because they have now have a tent sale at every weekend at one of the locations. So they're moving their tent sale location to location, week to week to week, of these used bikes, and it's a more profit. Number one, lower price point for customers. That's a win. And it keeps your staff busy by refurbishing. Basically, you're paying them back with paying a tune-up to your service departments by doing that. And then you can kind of incorporate some of those part sales within that too. But here's the silver lining, is you're providing a low price point bike, which is really good for somebody to get into cycling. And they're the type of, that don't have everything, right? They're not going to have the helmet, the gloves, and everything else. So that helps them keep the budget down so they can afford all those things and do cycling safely and comfortably as possible. So it's a win-win-win. And that's where you get that customer that come in and they bought that used bike. It worked really well for them. And they're thinking, oh, I had such a great experience here without bleeding out my wallet. I'm ready for my next ride, or my different type of ride. I'm doing my buddies in the gravel riding. I want to go ride with my buddies on the gravel bike. Or maybe I want to save my pennies up, since I've already justified that I like cycling, that I'm going to get that e-bike, that kind of thing. So, it's cultivating those new customers where, I'm sorry, the big brands have basically shut off for the last decade and a half. They're not giving them a price point bike to get into cycling, and they're not catering their shops that they own to do so. It's horrible. Where back in the 90s, that's all we had. We had a whole bunch of people that got into cycling because they saw Lance Armstrong win a tour, or, the racing was so small back then. It was mostly communities and just general recreational riding, getting people into riding. So we're definitely going back in that direction. Does it make sense? It depends on your shop, where you're at, where your customer base. There's all those dynamics you got to consider. But hey, you can take a small sampling and just do a test. And for shop owners that have other brands, let's just, for example, you carry Trek and Specialized, but most likely you don't. But if you had a couple big brands on your floor, you have like a trade-in event, and you bring in these trade-ins, you keep all the ones and have your team fix them up. They're all the same brand. So you have a Trek right next to a used Trek bike, hopefully the same model style, like a road with a road. And that gives that customer an opportunity to walk up and go, oh, there's this refurbished Trek at $900 or even less, versus the Trek right next to it that's $1,600 to $2,000. And quite honestly, as you and I know, as bike mechanics and bike shop owners, there's really not that much. There is, but really, is there really different experience in the experience of the riding? Like the experience that you're going to get out of riding. They're both going to put a smile on your face. They both shift and they both stop. Get over the high Kool-Aid of selling all the new stuff, because sure enough, that's not where the market is right now. They just want reliable, price point, get me into the sport bike. So if you put it with brand to brand, that's a win. So that gets the customer in there. What do you do with all the other brands that you don't carry? Because it makes more sense to keep the same brands on the floor. Well, you can have a tent sale and sell those out. Or you just sell them out of the back end of your store, like, like Prohibition days. Basically you take those odd brands, you still fix them up. There's two ways you can do this, really, a couple different ways. You can be very creative. One, you just list them on eBay because you know how to pack and ship bikes, right? So just do that. Put them on Facebook Marketplace still, or what have you, Craigslist, or any of those other ones. And if you have a website they do sell stuff off of, do it that direction, which I highly suggest, because that's the majority of my platform is just selling used on my website. And then you keep the commissions down, costs of transactional layer down, versus eBay's 13, 14, 15%, on the sell, the transaction. Therefore, you're really winning all directions. You're actually driving more sales through out of the back end of the shop for shipping and so forth. You get a bike that's like going to be too much to fix up, part it out. You can make probably more of a profit on it anyway, half the time, if you do your numbers right, if you bring it in at a low enough price. And honestly, you don't have to do a trade-in event. Just sit there in your evening on your phone and check Facebook Marketplace and pick like 5 of them in your neighborhood and go check them out. Spend an hour driving around, pick them up, cash on hand, boom, take them to the shop, and you'll get a taste for it real quick of how lucrative it can be. Brick and mortars have advantage over me because you have those customers coming in. You have that customer who's like, hey, I'm going to do a trade-in event, and you leverage Bicycle Blue Book pricing or eBay or whatever, however you want to do it, but make sure you get that price down low enough that you definitely are going to make a profit. And they understand that. People have been trading in cars forever, so they understand they're going to lose some of that value by doing that. But it's convenience factor and credit for the store, so it's a win-win. So highly recommend doing that. So you can definitely generate a whole bunch of new customers, people out there riding, and it's a win-win. I mean, that's where the only silver lining that we have right now, quite honestly, because everybody's doing that. The corporate stores have not figured that out yet, even though they Specialized try to leverage the free tune-up thing back in November, which they didn't do again, by the way. But in case in point, a lot of independent shops are going that direction because they know it's there. Can it support them long term? It depends on the size of your store, what your overhead is, that kind of thing. If you started off in that direction, yes, but if you're converting over, you may have some higher overhead costs that may not be absorbed by just flipping bikes, the used market and so forth. But there is companies that's all they've done. Post Closet is a pretty good example of that. Their failure, don't get freaked out over their failure. Their failure was self-made. They took on an investment way too much and didn't do it quite right, and eventually they bled out. Basically, investment companies do that a lot of times. Anyway. Oh, wait. All right. So, yeah, thanks for chiming in. Thank you, shop owners, for chiming in, or people that work at shops too. You're all valued, and this is a safe space-ish. Thanks for commenting. So Andrew, thank you for chiming in. Appreciate it. And yeah, I went to one of the local shops in your neck of the woods, and they have way too many expensive bikes and not enough hybrids and touring bikes. The price points are way off. Well, that was kind of driven by the industry for a long time. Trek and Specialized Giant been pushing out a very expensive narrative for such a long time. And now, guess who's holding the buck? The bike shops. And with the tariff thing, when the price is going up, and Trek did a price increase, they may have not affected the independent bike shops as much, but the corporate stores prices have increased the day I mentioned it a couple weeks ago. And I was in there recently, and we'll talk about it in a second. But Specialized rolled out theirs on the 1st or 2nd of this month. So yeah, so even though they do sell through their inventory, they may not be buying very much inventory anyway. But the ones that do, like what we call bread and butter bikes, Andrew, is the hybrids, the lower entry mountain bikes, the cheaper touring, so forth. That particular shop is going to need to leverage the used market to bring that price point in, because right now I'm pretty sure they're hearing crickets on the sales floor. And the service department is probably a little busy and starting to get busy, but other than that, the sales are not there. Case in point, went to the local corporate store here to get a part, and for a repair I was doing, talking to the individuals there, I know them, worked with them before in previous lives, and they without saying it, they said it, they're dead. They're dead. I mean, it's May, and they should be rocking. Like, they should be like bikes going out the door, new. They should have tune-ups. They should be like mechanics freaking out. Mechanics are just hanging out, talking. Like, they're talking to me. You know, and typically, they would be like heads down because they have a 24-hour turnaround guarantee. So, yeah, they should be like head down grinding right now. Nope. And that would make me nervous out of those working there. It's like, if the numbers are not there to support it, corporate is a business and they are looking for profit. And if they're not seeing profit, and if they can't outweigh it, those stores are shutting down. Case in point, a lot of the stores have already closed. So thank you, Andrew, for chiming in. You got me on a soapbox on that one. Oh, back Lucky Studio. Yeah, he's talking about mountain bike scene, how much has changed, and now it's that goes into my next story. This is a great segue, because mountain biking to me, back in the day, I started riding when there was no suspension, like there was no shocks. If they were, we didn't have them yet. It was like very, very, very new. And even then, when I did a lot of my riding, I only had a front suspension, and the full suspensions were just starting to come out. Tech wasn't quite there. They were heavy and clunky. The pivot wasn't right and so forth. And it was a weird ride. Even though you went faster going down, but climbing was not pleasurable whatsoever. But so a lot of hardtails. So fast forward today, and they've gone extreme with their mountain bikes and extreme pricing too. And then the gravel thing kicked in. Well, now gravel is kind of, for 80% of us, that doesn't need something overly complicated to ride and still have a great time. The gravel bike that's designed a little more for gravel, for single track style riding, with a wider tire clearance, closer to the 29er hardtail, it's all you really need. And therefore, a lot of people have actually gone that direction. And it's a very versatile bike, so you can still, I'm right up against the Rocky Mountains. I used to go up in the mountains all the time to do rides. I have a family and a daughter and a job and all of this other stuff. I have not had time to pack up my bikes and go up and hit Winter Park or Steamboat or any of those places in the last 10 years. Sad, but I still ride. Still on bike paths. My ride has changed. Not to say there's still a lot of mountain bike communities out there. There's huge. But, that's that. But for majority of us recreational riders, don't need the overcomplicated bike. We just need something a little bit easier that works and more budget friendly. And you can work on it yourself and that kind of thing, because they've overcomplicated some of them for sure. I can take my gloves off now since I'm not tied. Hot chain, starting to warm up, starting to sweat. So now my chain, I have a fan going on over here, so it's cooled off everything, but I got a rec chain, and then we'll shed it. And I'll show you how to shed it. So, yeah, let's cool down. It's still a little soft. So these have little pots they pull out of. So this is, actually I'm going to wait a little bit longer before I shed it. But basically you can see it's still a little pliable, but that'll even get more firm over time. So let that set. Reason being is, you want that really to penetrate the pores of the steel as much as you can with that wax. And it gives it a longer longevity. wax chains, depending on the riding, obviously no wax company wants to put a number to it because they don't want to be held accountable for how long a chain will stay waxed. All depends on the conditions, the variables, and all that. But you can get roughly 300 to 500 miles of riding, more so if conditions are better. My neighbor, she got like 900 miles before it needed to be re-waxed on hers, and she used to race, so it depends on your conditions and how much, that kind of thing. Or she or noticed it. It really is when the chain starts making a little bit of noise, apply the drip lube, and boom, you're good for a couple hundred more miles, and just do that for a while until you get it to re-wax. And re-waxing is easiest. You just heat up your wax and put it back in there. You don't need to do any of the cleaning process. Just so you don't need the 2-pot unless you want to. I still do the 2-pot just because the idea is if you do they say like a mountain bike and gravel bikes, you got more contaminants and that kind of thing. I find on road bikes you still get just as much contaminants. So still use the 2-box system. Dirty wax dip gets all the gunk off of it. Then you put it in the clean wax with a lower temperature, and you save that process. And you see, it didn't take that long. It would take, for you at home, it takes longer for the wax to heat up than it actually is to wax the chain. Let's just put it that way. Anyway, all right, back to comments and our talk. So yeah, talking about that store, it's like dead crickets. A lot of stores that primarily only sell new are going to have to do something. Take out bigger loans because they're going in the negative. Because there's not people buying, or the prices are staying and not going on sale. It's not like Trek is going to have Trek Fest Part 2, which, by the way, I don't think Trek had a second Trek Fest this year. Matter of fact, if any of you guys are Trek dealers, let me know in the comments, because typically you'd have Trek Fest, which is their annual sale. And then it'd be like Trek Fest 2 and Trek Fest 3 and Trek Fest 4. You're like, oh, this is the models that didn't sell. Let's discount them some more and move them. Because this whole tariff thing and the price increase, they're like, well, shit, can't do that. So Specialized didn't have a second, right in the spring sale either. So it's kind of like all the big manufacturers that went, whoop, puckered up, not going to sell anything on sale. We're going to hold an inventory they have, even though it's 2 years old, because we can't just bleed it out. Even though they haven't paid tariffs on those, but they're going to be paying tariffs on anything that comes in. And even though there might be adjustments to the tariffs to bring it down, it's not going to be as low as it was before-ish. So, and the whiplash of that is so disruptive that they can't forecast. And if you can't forecast, you can't put out projections of your sales to your stockholders or anybody who's invested in your company. So therefore, you're in a very big pickle of, said a CEO going, I can't put out numbers. There's nothing to, like the guy at Kent International, like we talked about before. They can't put out any numbers. They have no idea. It's so disruptive to their business. Will they survive? Hopefully. Depends how deep their pockets were to begin. But there's going to be some serious cuts, cleanups, and all that. How are they going to manage that? Hopefully the demand comes up and people feel confident of buying things again. That's where it really needs to start. And then from there, then providing products that actually fit the actual market, whichever that market's going to be, because it's definitely going to be different than it was before. Or well, let's put it this way. It's going to be different than the market they thought it was, because I don't think they ever had a grasp of the real market. Initially, talking about $10,000, $15,000 bikes. I mean, they were selling them, so some people had money, but those people are not buying them now, I don't think. All right. Yeah, talking about, let's go into social media a little bit. There was a good article on Retail Toolkit, bicycle, Brain, Bicycle Retailer Industry News. They interviewed several bike shops and their social medias. And, they had like 5 or 6 bike shop people talk about their social media and how they're leveraging it, that kind of thing. yeah, it's interesting that a lot of these bike shops are still thinking that social media is just Facebook and Instagram. It's, yeah, I mean, some of you are watching me on Facebook, sure. Some of you are watching me on YouTube, and you are watching me on YouTube. No, YouTube's huge, but here's the kink. The bike shops didn't see. A lot of them have started a YouTube channel. They quickly quit because they didn't see instant return. Um, that's a horrible way of looking at it. The way you need to look at for social media, and at least in my perspective and smaller shop perspective, is you're building a community through your channel. So you're not just, making a video, placing a product and hoping to shit you're going to sell 40 more of these by the end of the week than you did before. Kind of does. I mean, sometimes it works that way, but kind of doesn't. But what YouTube has done for me as the community that I've worked and built by showing all the inside stuff and all that is driven. Over half of my tune-ups now are driven from people that have seen me on YouTube. So I've had a huge steady stream of avid cyclists or that are into cycling that feel comfortable, like to know the mechanic. So you're validating. That's where I started in YouTube, is basically to validate what I do. And then they see me wax a chain. Then they see me detail a frame. Then they see me do things like, I want that done to my bike here. And so there's driven a lot of service for me. So pleasantly surprised. There is definitely some product placement that you can sell. Of course there is, yes. But should you expect it? No. If you go in it without expecting it, it's a pleasant surprise. If it's something that you're expecting, it's going to be a horrible failure. So basically try to do it as a social community build, validating your shop, what they do, and what insights that you can provide. So you bike shop people out there, okay, I got a challenge for you. If you're watching me still, listening in the second hour of this, I'm going to challenge you. I'm going to challenge you that if you have a YouTube channel, if you don't, open one up, just because. If you do, you probably haven't posted recently. And if you are, you're probably a social person like me already that's already leveraged it to a point of that's most of your stuff. There's a lot of different ways of leveraging it. And for me, for right now, it's basically a community thing. I'm not relying on it for my sole income. That's the tune-ups, that's the selling the parts, it's, that kind of thing. But it's laying the groundwork for years. This is a long game for me, people. This is like a 10 to 15 year long game for me. So I'm investing now, so I'll pay in return for evergreen videos. When I'm broken up, I can't stand long, my fingers all crumpled up, and all I can do is sip my coffee through a straw. So that's the long game, but I'm trying to provide a community. So you got some legendary experts in your shop, and maybe even you, right? And this is the thing, we have content for days. I mean, every bike that you're tuning up, you can make 8 different videos. It doesn't have to be high quality. It could be grainy. It could be, bad sound. Try to get your sound down. But, weird lighting or whatever, just start doing it. Let me tell you, my first videos suck. But I keep them up there because people like to see the graduation of suck to better and not as bad. Tolerable, let's put it that way. And people like real world scenarios. Come on. MTV had it. I mean, the real world, come on. I mean, that's that. So if you can do better than that. And all you need is the thing that you're looking at me is a phone. You can get the mics later and all that, but just use your phone and start with shorts, like the 3-minute or less. Highlight a bike, shoot a before or after. You come across a weird shifter thing that might be insightful for somebody, put some descriptions on it. Just start off simple, all right? Just do it. Just do it. And this is a challenge. Post a video a day for 2 weeks. Short, little thing here and there for 2 weeks. Put a little something in the comments for the SEO. The trick is the title, use AI for the title. I want to explain the 105 ST 5600 front derailleur. AI will give you a verbiage enough. You edit it, throw it in the comment. You see the SEO, the algorithm picks up on the name placements, Shimano, Trek, Klein, paint job, detailing, all those things, keywords, right? Those keywords have to be in the title and the first couple sentences of the description. With that particular thing, it'll pull and it'll put in front of people that are watching for those particular things. So case in point, I put up a tariff on there, boom, it falls in the tariff bucket. Everybody's watching videos about tariffs. So don't do that. But with bike stuff, you can use the brand name, use a bigger brand name if you want, but just do a short little video like, this is how you adjust a rear derailleur, a 105 rear derailleur. That was one of my biggest videos. It's like my biggest shorts video. And you can copy that video and take the same video and put it on Instagram, put it on TikTok, put it on anything that has like a short feed and do it. This is what I'm going to ask you to do though. I'll put the list in the description, but for YouTube specifically, put @AnoaGuyBicycles in the description, and therefore I can see which ones you've posted. So this is your challenge. Post videos. I'm not going to get anything from it, but I'm going to be able to see what you tag me and say influenced by @AnoaGuyBicycles. And we'll see how many of you post some videos. If you can't do it every day, do it like every other day. Or, if you're doing major retail Monday through Friday, because your weekends are just shot to shit anyway. But do a video and just kind of see how they do, right? And if you want to do a little bit longer content, do that too. It could be raw, ugly, whatever. I just challenge you. Just do it for 2 weeks before the season really gets freaking crazy, and we'll see. And also, all of you have websites, right? If you're a bike shop, you have a website. You got those little tags for your social media. The reason why you have those tags, because people will go to your website, and to validate your freaking website, you got to have a link to an active page. Like your Facebook goes to a Facebook page, which I've gone to a couple websites and it doesn't go anywhere. Make sure those links are connected, and then make sure you have a weekly post on each one of those links to validate your existence. Because not, they're going to think you're a fraudulent company, period. So if you're active in your community, this is all about community building. That's where it was lost in that article in retail. Those retailers were losing it because they're just trying to drive sales. They're mimicking the companies like whatever, Trek, Specialized, whoever, did a little post and they copied the same thing. That kind of thing with their community, goes with their email list, that kind of deal. Then cross-brand that same video. So repurpose that video as many times as you can, even put it into an email list, to your email list, that kind of thing. Leverage all that. Because you're basically, you're kind of giving a free advice how to adjust a derailleur, and you're thinking like, oh, it's taken away from a business. No, it's not. It's validating your expertise of working on a goddamn bike. It's doing the opposite. Yeah, maybe somebody will adjust and so forth, but they're going to go back to you to see about other things. Case in point, there's 11,000 of you watching, well, not this particular time, but subscribe to my channel, right? And what I'm doing and so forth. Very powerful. Here's the other gold nugget. It's not all based on subscriber counts. Really, everything's changed and it's kind of adjusted, and this is real time. And you're looking at a bike mechanic learning all this crap. But anyway, what it is shift to is people are no longer subscribing as much. Maybe the youngers are just too lazy to click the button or whatever. And by the way, hit the thumbs up if you like this video and you like my channel. That helps out too. Anyway, but anyway, you can do that mentioning, but put that at the end of the video. But we're not quite at the end, so yeah, I'll say that again later. Anyway, case in point is when you're leveraging all of that, it's validating what you're doing, and it doesn't have to be long, and it's going to generate a community eventually, and you're going to see numbers. And it's not all about the monetization and making money, where that's where I am now, but at some point you can. And you look at some of these other channels, they're social media or media companies, basically. You're not competing against them. You're competing against me. And then you're not really competing. You're just joining the community. Let's put it that way. It's a big enough community. People watch our stuff, and there's not enough content. There is not absolutely enough content for bike stuff. I swear to God, there isn't. There's a lot of stuff about racers. There's a lot of stuff about high-end product that nobody's going to buy, but there's not enough content of how to install little cheater brakes on 26.6 bars, right? How do you get those? How do you cut that? How do you get that length in there just right? How do you make sure the bends are just right here so you don't jack yourself up when you take a turn too sharp? You know, things like that, right? Just the things in your head. It's like, oh, this would be a great one for the, you know, safety concerns, you know, that kind of thing. You're bringing value. And then you get into the storytelling. My God, I still need to find this guy, Bill West, storyteller of the legendary Northern Colorado. He had a story about everything. And he's been around in the cycling industry for a long time, just like John Bradley, but in a more dirtier, grittier way. And he's an interesting guy. And I worked with him quite a while at Lee's, and you get to a point where his stories would loop, you know, but they were still pretty funny. It's like, oh yeah, I remember that one. That was a good one. But anyway, you have probably several of those individuals around there. Get them on tape. I mean, come on. It's like one of those things that you're capsulizing the culture, what should be shown in the back of the room. I mean, it's like those funny moments, talking about this, you know, riding this trail, or, you know, I swear, Bill had stories about 70s and cocaine and meeting big head Tyler monsters. It was just crazy stuff. And it's really highly entertaining. Add that to the culture. We have a lot of different sides to us. Please add those. So that's my challenge. At I Know a Guy Bicycles, put it in your next video they put in so I can see what you're posting, influenced by or encouraged by, or some dipshit on YouTube told me to do it. Any case, you know, hey, let's do it. Back to the comments. I wanted to bring that out just as a challenge. See if anybody does. And if nobody does it, I'm just going bad on you. Because the thing is, there's, you know, the reason why a lot of shops gave up is there wasn't instant gratification. There wasn't like, oh, I hit 1,000. I mean, it takes a lot. The bike farmer got lucky as fuck. I mean, he got 10 things you hate, you know, bike mechanics, well, 10 bad things, or 10 things are about bike mechanics or assholes or something like that. Okay, this is not a family show, so if you have kids around, I do apologize. In any case, it blew up, right? That was funny, it was gritty, he edited just right, bam, hundreds of thousands of views. There lose my other piece, is you have two perspectives. You got the evergreen videos about fixing little things, which those get thousands of views over time. Then you have the hit, click, you know, they're not clickbait really, they're just, you know, they hit, and some people will call it clickbait, but it's not, because you're talking about the content that you actually posted about. They just get huge views. I did the release of Specialized, or Merita's, talking about their downturn and then what they have to pay back, and also Giant being down 9%. That video 2 months ago, when that news hit, I made a video that day, it has over 200,000 views. Okay, so your bike shop talking about a topic, and a lot of your bike shops are not going to want to do this because you don't want to talk about the brands that you're working with as conflict, blah, 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 but you can find other things you can talk about. That's just an example. If you get a video that hits 200,000 views, your bike shop just got in front of 200,000 people. That's more than you can ever imagine by trying to do mailers, ad in the paper, put a listing in the phone book. Do you even have those? Anyway, you're getting my gist on this. It's not you know, it's not going to always happen, but you'll find a little secret sauce that works for you, and then people will follow you because of that particular vibe. And that when that vibe, that niche, or what have you, like you are watching me right now, you can leverage that in your own niche, or whatever that direction it is, and capitalize on it, and actually make you part of a community as well as helping generate income. The bike farmer did definitely say in today's video that if it wasn't for YouTube, he would have been done and working at Walmart. Well, he didn't say Walmart, but he would be working for another job, looking for that, not providing a community service by helping people getting on bikes, where that's been going on for decades. Bike shop people, including myself, hit the glass ceiling at some point and was weeded out and had to go find a different job other than the cycling industry because there wasn't a direction for me to go. Case in point, worked at Big 5 for 9 years because they had the next step for me. Paid vacation, 401k, health benefits, sick time off, all the crap I was not getting at the bike shop. So therefore, you know, case in point, now there's more opportunities for corporate stores, but they're all hurting. So there's no really I mean, come on. If I want to go get a bike shop job, it'd be pretty hard to do without being undercut on labor and not benefits at all. So in any case, that's where we're in. Our ecosystem is just messed up. The ones that are actually trying to make a difference, here we are. I know you guys are part of it, and thanks for being part of it too. And yeah, that's where the challenge comes in. It's like, hey, just do it for a week or two. See if you can jumpstart it. And then you don't have to do it. I mean, I've seen some very successful channels. They'll provide one video a month. That's it. Like the watch one. So the guy's taking apart a Rolex and putting it back together, that kind of thing. It's very intricate, faceless video. Just him in a closet working on something. But you look at the view counts, it's like astronomical. I mean, it's just nuts. So people watch that stuff. So you're able to, build your community, build up your shop, and you may go in a different direction like I did and never knew you thought that was an opportunity or even a thing or a concept. I'm venturing into different things that I never thought I'd be looking into. And I have a family team that helps me out, all unpaid, of course, but we're family in a sense, and we take care of each other, and they're helping me with this journey because they just think it's cool. And it is. Bikes are cool. Bikes are fun. Bikes are a great time to get out there, get out of your head, and there's all sorts of cool frames, steel, carbon, componentry, older stuff, newer stuff, history, all that stuff is so embodied in this. There's so much more content to build, to make, to put out there, and you can be part of that too, is what I'm doing here at I Know a Guy Bicycles in a garage where my neighbors are walking by looking at me weirdly, staring into a camera. So if I can make an ass of myself in front of total strangers in my neighborhood, you can too. Soapbox. Getting off my soapbox. All right, let's see if anybody has anything to say. Well, everybody has a whole bunch to say. Randy, good point. You got to focus on yourself. When you say yourself as myself, you got to focus on your own niche, what you are, right? It's like your own branding. That's where it got lost in the early 2000s when the corporate stores or corporate, oh, it wasn't corporate stores, it was branded, what do they call that? I forgot what they called it now, but it's concept stores. That's what it was. It's like, you're all fancy Trek looking or you're all fancy Specialized looking. They got rid of the family niche feel, which is horrible. I mean, at first it was kind of cool, like, hey, it's new and shiny, and after a while you're like, this is actually the dumbest thing ever. But anyway, that's just me. But yeah, thanks for Randy for chiming in on that. Vander, yeah, I think like about a year ago, COVID finally kind of tapered off, and now we're just smacked with something else weird. But trails are there, bike paths are made, bike lanes are there, bikes are still there, people riding bikes are on it. Just make sure you're safe, your bike is riding good, stops and shifts, and you're having a great time at it. It's all about, and community, be part of the people you're riding with. And it doesn't have to be organized or that kind of, just jump on a Strava group or meetup group and go for rides, and no drop rides are good, or party pace rides. That was a new term. That was kind of fun. Oh, Joe, yeah, you're right. And Joe has his own channel, by the way. Joe O channel. Of course, he has his own channel. He has his own channel. This stuff is funny and it's gritty and a lot of respect, man. I mean, he does some videos, and it's in the cold Canada winters, the first ones I've seen. I'm like, my God. I mean, the camera would be shaking so bad for me. But he has some great insights, and it's just fun. It's just kind of like a nice, fun, casual experience, and you get in a snapshot of his life. And that's my case in point. It doesn't have to be overly scripted. Just have a concept or idea and just go with it. Let it roll. My best stuff and my best popular stuff are based off me just jibber jabbering off the top of my head. Try to cut out the ands and ums and stuff like that. But in any case, it's, that's what people are looking for. They want real. We see enough fake as it is, and YouTube is a great real source of finding life in a shop, life in the cycling experience, bike path rides or whatever. Do a mix. Maybe something will go a little bit more better for you than the other. My bike tune-up stuffs, they're not the biggest videos, but the topics, talking about the industry, those are ones that are huge. It's like, yeah, I do get burned out on talking about it because it's not a lot of great news lately. I'd be the first one to chime at the top of my lungs going, this is fucking awesome. We're doing great. But we're not doing that great right now. So we're trying to do our best, that kind of thing. Yes. And yes, YouTube and all social media platforms are a marathon, not a sprint. So yeah, for Ben and Colossus, Casey Nestet. I'm not sure who that one is, but in the comments section, he mentioned about a video titled "The Bike Lanes," and yeah, he probably made a lot of money off of affiliate links, which a lot of us, which we get to a certain level, have those. Of course, I have affiliate links down below. Go ahead and fill and take a look, and great segue for that. But if anything of interest, you need a Chris King headset, there's a link down there below. But JensonUSA is probably where you're going to find the other more affordable crap for you to get your bike rolling the way you need to go. In any case, sidebar on that, I did watch the Pathless Pedaled, Party Pace, that guy. He's a bike guy, but not a bike mechanic guy. And he's been touring with his husband, or is a husband and wife team. They've been touring on bikes for the last 10 years. They built up this channel, doing great. Also to a point where they sold everything off about a year or so ago and moved to Spain, and they're doing videos over there. And great experience, enjoying the experience, the ride, that kind of thing. And, yeah, could he be more technical? Sure, but he doesn't need to be. I mean, he doesn't know everything. He just has to share experiences. And we all like watching it. And he has over hundreds of thousands of subscribers. And, his videos are doing well. And he has, affiliates and so forth that pay for shows and all that kind of stuff to keep them going on. But in any case, it's one of those things where, even in a bike shop, it's a good side hustle income to a point, but really back in the day, or back to the original days, it's just what you do. You're a mountain bike shop. You sell mountain bikes. You sell e-bikes. You work on e-bikes. You work on mountain bikes. You do suspension work. You do things. What weird stuff to look out for? This is something, what do you really need? Quite honestly, ask yourself the really hard questions like, does your customer really need this? Really? I mean, you're selling it, but do they really need it? Okay, then take that part where they really need, and that's what you need to be really focusing on in this scenario right now, because they're going to see right through that and go, I sure shit don't need that. Tell me what I really need. Okay, you don't need a $4,000 gravel bike because that's the only thing you see on the new market. You can find a nice used one that I can fix up for you, and then I can size you to it, and you'd be pink and tickled and happy and going for a good ride. And guess what? You probably make as just much margin, if not more, on after sales on that one bike. That's a lot cheaper than you would with that $4,000 bike, because it seems to me, correct me if I'm wrong, the more expensive the bikes they're trying to sell to customers, that margin somehow gets squeezed, which really means they're making less money. So it's not the 40% margin or 30% margin. It gets to 20, 15 if you're lucky. So as bike shops, and you're a customer, try not to give your bike shop people too much heck, because they're not making as much as you think they are on that $4,000 or $5,000 bike, especially when it goes on sale, because they don't sometimes get rebated the difference, if not any time, from the corporate. When Trek puts their bikes on sale, or Specialized, or any brand, they're not rebating or price protecting their dealers most of the time. They do it in a way where they're going to protect themselves. So that's how it all works. Any case, all right. getting close to the top of the hour, and time for me to have lunch and go for a ride. My gosh. 88 is the high today. Fahrenheit. Awesome. See, I can find a positivity of all this negativity. Chicken Little. Yeah. But hey, you know, you're here, I'm here, we're doing what we do. We either go ride or work on bikes or whatever the case. We enjoy it. There's a reason why we're here. We enjoy doing it. That should be the silver lining of today's mantra. It's like, sun's shining. Let's get the rubber on the road. Let's go ride. That's what we should be doing. Try to get our heads out of the whole colossal mess that we're dealing with. All right. Let's see. Yeah, Forbin, yeah, you got a point about the payment structure. Really, I haven't paid it too close attention on it because I'm not relying on that as an income, as like people doing super chats or view counts and all that. I mean, I see a kick, of course, especially when you have a video that takes off and you want to make sure your ads have the proper placement. And obviously, they're going to try to make you more money at some point to incentivize you to make more videos. That's the whole YouTube platform, as well as Meta and everybody else. Then they get into the paid platforms like, oh, to get more people out there, then you got to pay, like Meta. That's where a lot of people will put a lot of their eggs in a basket for their social media, for their stores. It falls flat because if you're not paying Meta their little cut that they want to take from your pocket, you're not getting out there. It just falls into the bottom unless somebody for some reason shows part of a butt cheek or something and all of a sudden it becomes a YouTube or a social media thing. It's not going anywhere. I mean, I swear, it's just horrible. But in any case, you have to navigate around that. You can work with brand deals, partnerships, that kind of thing. If you have a big enough channel, that kind of thing. If you are kind of an influencer, you can rope in other shops like Precision E-Bike, where you need to get all your e-bike services and so forth. They're in Fort Collins, Colorado. Check in with Josh. He'll take care of you all day long. You know, that's the kind of thing that you can plug in, which reminds me of a Black Mirror that we just watched. Freaky show. In any case, that one turned out really bad. But yeah, I know it sounds like I have Tourette's, but I'm trying to bring home a point that it's, you know, it could be good if done right, and try to get out of your head about it. I've been trying to get my wife into it, and she just has stage fright. But she's a scientist that has so much knowledge, and she's been interviewed by news stations. I'm like, just do that. just do that. But I gotta, you know, once you get going, get your little rhythm, you'll be fine. But you just need to take that first couple steps and just don't look at the comments. Don't read them because people will be brutal sometimes. Oh, no, you did see the Bike Farmer video? That's good. It's nice to see, you know, not nice to see people are struggling. But it's nice to see that you're not alone. And the pay points that he was referencing was pretty dead on from a lot of shops that I've talked to and businesses in or out of bicycle retail that are dealing with all these struggles. And it's, you know, I don't think any of us are safe. So we're going to do everything we can and try to help each other out. That's what it comes down to. We need to help each other out. Oh yeah, I'm doing okay. I'm a nervous kitten because my wife's a scientist, like I've just mentioned, and you know she doesn't have any direct government contracts that are related to what she does, but her company does have some, and you know, of course I'm nervous because her job enables me to do this, and if we don't have her income, I'm getting the job like the Bike Farmer said. I got to go get a real job. That's what we call it here in the cycling world. Or, I don't know, sell more parts, be more weird about it. Yeah, let's see, what else we got here? Randy, you got a point there. Too many shops are running on debt. Well, that was actually driven by, and we got caught on that with Parker Bikes days. It was basically, debt is driven by the brands that you're buying from, is they give you like that never dating, then you kick the can down with pushing invoices further down. And my dad was really good of leveraging all 3 or 4 brands at the time, like pay one off to get some bikes, and then you push like the Fuji invoices down a month or 2 and all that. It eventually caught up to us, of course, and he kept everything in his head, so you didn't really share that part of it too directly. So that was a problem. And a lot of shops, I mean, are probably not at extreme, but they still have accruing debt, and some shops are doing good, that they own majority of their inventory. But even then, the investment that you put in, like I own these chains, but the thing is I need a certain amount of turns to make it relevant to pay the bills, because sure enough, rent and electricity and everything else is monthly. It's got enough turns, everything else, to pay for that. So business 101. And again, I'm not an economic business whatever, but I know retail, and that's how it works. But yeah, it's a good point. And they get themselves in the sling, and every preseason order is basically a hope for the best kind of thing, where bike shops should have been telling bike companies, like, I ain't doing pre-season. I'm only buying when I need it. I don't care if I have to pay a little more. That should have been our philosophy back then, because we still probably would be in business today, or at least a little bit more of a chance. Probably would not have been, but anyway. 22 degrees here. Joe, yeah, that has to be Celsius. Thank goodness it's a beautiful day. It's a beautiful day here too. I hear the birds chirping in the back. Oh, Forbin, you're in San Francisco, 65? Not too bad for San Francisco, but a little bit humid. Man, San Francisco market, that's going to be crazy. All those hills and humidity. Love San Francisco. We spent our honeymoon there-ish. One of many places. Yeah, I mean, I haven't, Noah, you had a good point about Bike Farmer. It's like, I haven't watched a lot of his videos. Again, some of I did start watching him, like, this is like watching me do my own thing, kinda. I mean, it's like, I just can't. I just can't. Great for you guys that watch us. It's awesome. More content, the better. But for me, I'm already doing it. It's just like, it doesn't, but I saw that and I'm like, I mean, it's been a while since he's actually did, it's not a political video. A lot of people think these are like, it's not. It's like our industry, and it's what's affecting it. And unfortunately, in this situation, it is politics. So we have to talk about it. You can't just ignore it, because it's going to affect you. And people are not coming to the door. Well, I wonder why. I mean, and you can't. I mean, we have to turn it off and go for a bike ride and not worry about it as much sometimes, because you'll just go mad. But it is there, and it is definitely affecting our business. And it definitely is affecting our costs when it comes to buying tools, buying new. Now we're nickel and dime. We're trying to get as much out of that bike bottle lube as much as we can, or that tub of wax. I mean, it did as many and retain as much as that wax. It's like, man, you're clipping coupons again and just trying to, you're doing everything you can. So that's our lives here in the United States. People that are outside. I mean, we're pinched, and maybe it's because maybe we deserve it. Hopefully not. But a lot of us were, for the cycling community, cycling community is a global thing for how I see it. I mean, I like people that are riding bikes in every country. Get on that bike, go out for a ride. It should be a communal thing, which it always seemed to be, and it should be. And diversity and inclusion, as our country is trying to be right now, is very painful to see and watch and be a part of. And regardless of how you voted, we have to own up to it as Americans. One way or another, we got to figure out what we need to do, whatever that is. And that puts us in a very uncomfortable position, because we don't want to. A lot of us don't want to do anything. Like, my God, all I want to do is live my life. I already got all this other shit to deal with. Now I got to go show up to do this or vote that or pay attention to I mean, it's just a colossal headache. It's horrible. So ride your bike, right? In any case, yeah, thanks for watching me. Thanks for watching the Bike Farmer. Thanks for watching all of us bike people do our thing. And again, if you have a bike shop, you're a mechanic, start making some short videos of just stuff. Like the GC Performance guy in Florida. He mentioned on one of his videos that his biggest video was a stupid little short. You shouldn't say stupid, but it was a stupid little short about running a sound of a free hub body on one of the higher end bikes that they had. And went, the thing just like took off. It was like one of those, when shorts are just starting, so it just hit it just right. Come on, any insights you can provide, just tag me in the description. Influenced by, got told by, some dummy on YouTube told me to do this. Oh yeah, Added Guy Bicycles. Yeah, in any case. Nice. Oh, San Francisco Hills. Oh yeah. Yeah, I bet. Yeah, you mentioned San Francisco Hills and braking. Yeah, I mean, we got mountains. When you're doing e-mountain riding, especially if you're on road, you're hoping your brakes work, because bombing down at 40, 45 miles per hour, it could not end very well for you. Oh yeah, I mentioned about a pre-pandemic videos. Yeah, those are a weird watch, right? You're like, it's like we've gone through so much together. It's just been weird, and here we are. We're still trying to not make it weird, and yet it's still weird. But it's the thing is my experiences, and leave you on this kind of note, is like it started my cycling adventure started, bike shop adventure started. Well, 70s was my cycling experience, but 89 is when I started working in my parents' shop, and they had it for about a year or so before, and I tried to get in right at the open, but I was in my punk rock phase, and my dad wouldn't let me work there with a mohawk. So there was that. Had to grow out of that phase, and once I started working there, I would say the bike shop culture basically saved me, and I've known a lot of people in the cycling industry. Also, a former racer, he said, if I didn't join that team at that time in my youth, I would probably be stuck in that small podunk town, either strung out on drugs or dead. So, and I wouldn't say mine was that extreme, but I can say that cycling and cycling community, and that's where I really harp on shops to really try to reach out to the cycling community, because you do not know who you're saving. I mean, it's just like one of those things. It's like, it's very therapeutic. It's very good for your health. It's very good for all those things, and also good for community. And, growing up in my 20s in the bike shop and going through all those experiences, definitely it made me feel like I was a part of something. And as a lot of you are watching this, feel probably the same way of however you ventured into cycling, either later in life or as a young youth and you refound it, or you've been there the whole time. Everybody has those stories, and that could be added to the ventures of your cycling channel, of whatever platform you want to use. And with those particular things, all of us have our own perspectives and experiences. Either I hate that brand because they did this to us, or it broke on me, or whatever. Or then we have, I love this trail. It was awesome to go and ride the Moab, or finally get to ride Moab, or Fruta in Colorado, which is the Colorado's version of Moab. And I say those names because they're recognizable and people know it globally for the most part. Like up there in Winter Park or Vail. I mean, it's just one of those things that, oh, you've heard of it. But to ride the trails in Winter Park back in the 90s was beautiful and amazing, which still is today. You can do that. So, those kinds of things where I would say it definitely saved my direction, because I had no clue what direction I was going to go with life. It gave me a direction, gave me a purpose, gave me a community, and here I am today trying to cultivate and rebuild and expand that community that I've experienced back then and through all those years, as well as today. So yeah, 35 years plus of turning wrenches and getting my hands dirty and cutting my fingers on random dumb things. I'm still here doing it, and it's made me who I am. And if you watched my Mother's Day tribute video last Sunday. I suggest watching it. It's like, yeah, it's definitely a tribute to my mom, but that's a tribute also to what a bike shop culture could make you a better person. And that's exactly the case in point. Those influences, like my dad, or even the reps back then, which now good old time friend was our bike truck rep back in the day, John Bradley. You see him on videos of mine, and we're just all about the community of cycling. It's just like, at the end of the day, he's no longer a salesperson, and he never really kind of was. He was more like a family friend back then, and today even more so now. So with all those things, that you skipping stone through life, and you are part of this community, and it's, it doesn't have to be cycling. Running, community has runners, triathlons, they have their own little community. It's quite bizarre, but, kayaking, hiking, and Joe, he does paddles. I mean, for canoeing, boating, all that kind of stuff. It's kind of cool to see. Like, he runs his mountain bike and you see him like making a paddle. It's kind of cool, It's a great crossover. It's about the person, and that's where it relies to the bike shops, which I really miss, because the bike shops used to have their own personality. Like, the Denver Spoke had this weird enigma in the 70s and the 80s and part of the 90s where, it was that high-end elitist shop of the day, but you swear the staff was stoned out of their minds half the time, and the characters that worked there were hilarious. Dong, I mean, if you're in the Denver Metro and you're in that area, you knew Dong. I mean, it was just that. I mean, it's just like, you probably have a story, So it's, it's back then, and that's where I see the future of the cycling bike shops, or we're going back to the niche, double down. We are the shop. Oh yeah, I carry one of those brands, and it might be different next week. I don't care. It doesn't matter, because you're going to the shop that is about the people that work there and the culture that they provide. And that's where it got lost in the way, and those corporates are stuck, and they're going to have to figure out their own shit. But hopefully they don't take out any of us in the process. But in any case, stay strong to your niche. If you don't have a niche, figure that out. It'll find you. Your community will reach out. Get out there, ride your bike, meet those people, see it. Go, for me, if I ever get a pinch for I need more service, I'm right next to the trailhead, like to the Loveland Loop that goes all around Loveland. It's a nice little 20-mile ride. People are on that all day long. All I have to do is pop my bike shop tent, put out a bench, some tools, like free tunes, free adjustments, or whatever, I would get a customer base 2 hours on a Sunday morning, more than I could probably handle. So those kind of grassroots, very flexible, on the fly kind of things could really benefit your shop, can benefit your culture in your neck of the woods. We're here to help. That's what it really comes down to. Bike shop mechanics mostly, they like the cool stuff, but really, honestly, what they really should be more proud of is getting people out there riding and sharing the experience, and get them on a safe bike and enjoy it as much as you do. It's really just that simple. I mean, it is that simple. Getting kind of choked up over it here, and it's kind of weird. Let's see. That's funny about a mohawk. Yeah, he wouldn't let me. It was a cool mohawk. He wouldn't let me do it. Dad. But I came around. I came back. I might still have to I still have hair enough to do it. I might have to just do it, just to be rebellious to my stage. But in any case, yeah, Randy, thank you, appreciate it. And all of you that watch, I mean, I know some of you cut in and out. These are a little bit longer. I just hope you just have me in the background and jibber jabber about stuff and bring up points and chime in when you can. And, all bring valid points and, that kind of thing. Let's see, one of the 70s terms that went away was the English Racer. Oh yeah, the 10-speed. Yeah, I got to get John Bradley on that again. We talked about Trek, one of the Trek 500s. You watch that video, it's pretty, wow. They put a lot into those bikes back then. You didn't even think, you look at it in a garage sale and be like, this is a piece of junk. And you're like, you listen to him talk, it's like, wow, I actually respect it now, even though it's still heavy as hell. But hey, the person that rides that bike loved it. Anyway, or how bikes were made. Focus on the rolling points, yeah. Oh yeah, the everything will kill you, so choose something that you want to, or choose something fun. Everything's gonna kill you, so choose something fun. Yeah, no risk, no gain. Yeah, I mean, my aggressive mountain bike days are, limited. Because yeah, I don't bounce anymore. It's a hard thud and it followed with an ER trip, so it's I'm a little more reserved. I still have fun though. I still do good things. But yeah, it's one of those things. Oh yeah, before I take off, I was thinking about getting Bradley. He knows a lot about steel frames, and yeah, Bark Farmer mentioned about that too, about the componentry or the materials being made by carbon frames and custom carbon frames versus aluminum, which the costs of those are really high. But the steel, that's where you'll find a lot more steel or titanium builds, which the price is a little bit down. We do have a local guy. This is no plug, but he is a frame builder of titanium. It's called Black Sheep in Fort Collins. Does custom build frames and various other things. So shout out to him. Also, Moots is made in Steamboat, which is about a 3-hour drive for me, but it's Steamboat, Colorado. Still another company. If you have the money, I mean, come on. For me, if I had $4,000 to go buy a bike, it sure would not be a cookie cutter one. It'd be definitely like a Moots or a Linux, which those are on sale, or a Fairlight, just a nice steel frame. Those things, or a Tumbleweed, which is a weird niche gravel bike kind of thing, like something different. I would not want to see myself riding down a road if I'm spending that much money. It's like, I don't know. It's just, if you have the money, that's what I do. But back to a case in point. Please comment below. If you're watching this replay, please comment in the comments. Comments in the comments. So steel frames, right? I got schooled on this last bike frame that I was working on and getting ready to sell, which was, sorry I walked out of the frame, but I needed to grab this. It's a Specialized Olay Elite. Okay, you're like, okay, you're pushing Specialized? Like, no. This is like a 2005, between 2003 and 2005, Specialized made steel frames for a little bit higher end. This had an Ultegra, also a 105 kit mix on these. And they had Columbus tubing. And I was like, oh, man, I don't remember very much about Columbus. So I pinged John, and I'm like, took a picture of it. And it's like, hey, do you know about Columbus? And my God, instead of getting a text back, I got a phone call. I knew I was in trouble then. And he was like, yeah, Columbus was like the Italian version of the high-end steel back in the day, even up to today's standards. So you have Reynolds, which has the high-end steel, then you have Columbus, which is the two that are combating for market share. And Reynolds is English, and Columbus is Italian, or was affiliated with Campanolo, which is Italian. And so those are your two high-end steel frame. So what I was thinking about doing is get him on a video and talking about steel frames, because steel is, the inexpensive version or poor man's titanium, which is easier to make, put together and weld and all that. But the ride is phenomenal. The steel ride, it's like the feel of steel, right? And if you have a steel frame, put it in the comments or chat, because, it is. And so, yeah, it's a very good properties. And the weight, come on. I mean, so there's a lot of people worried about grams and weight. It's about the experience and the ride more than that. So if you're in that camp, which I am, it's about the ride and experience. I'm riding on a pop rod, which has True Temper chromoly, which is another company that made chromoly frames. And when I say steel, I mean more chromoly. And then there was Tenge, which is another one, which in that Trek 500 old school had Tenge dropouts with Tenge rear. This one has a triple butted chromoly main tube. No idea what the rear triangle is made out of, because they don't advertise that. Just usually on the sticker it says main tube. Triple butted, high temperature control, thermal alloy. Now I always throw it's like they do mixes with the metals. So I'd love to get a hold of him and tell me, with a thumbs up or whatever, comment like, yeah, let's talk about steel, because I want to get like 3 different brands of steel frames, of topics, and have him go over the Reynolds story, the Columbus tube story, the Tengay story, the True Temper story, and because he was part of the he was in the manufacturing portion for a long time for Trek, and like the Bike Farmer had a really good point, and I've mentioned this before. Like Trek and Specialized, they're not manufacturers. They're a marketing people and design people. They basically design the bikes, but they have manufacturing is done somewhere else. So but a lot of those companies would send over their employees to oversee the manufacturing at the facilities, which John was one of those individuals that spent a lot of time in Taiwan, in China, and various other places to see and oversee the production runs of various bikes being made. So he's gotten a lot of insights, and he's met a lot of these, the people and the owners of the people that actually manufactured the tubing for these brands. So let me know if that's something to be like a pretty cool story. I might do it anyway, regardless what you say, but I just thought that'd be kind of a teaser. I need to corner them. And I'm still working on my Fairlight video. I'll get that out by next weekend. Talking about Reynolds 853 high-end, latest of the greatest Fairlight tubing. It's a bike to check out for sure. Any case. Anyway, I got to go eat lunch and go for a ride and shed my chain, that kind of thing. So I hope all of you have a wonderful day. Thank you for hanging out with me in the garage. And if it's nice in your neck of woods, please go for a ride, that kind of thing. And you see how not messy this is? I mean, it's stiff, but this is what I do. I just put it in here, closing on a wax chain, and all you're doing is just shedding it, kind of get it pliable. Gotta get it right. All right. In any case, there's links below. If you're watching this on the replay, please put comments. Hope you like it. Give it a thumbs up. Please like, share, and all that good jazz, as my daughter would say. She was going to be the next YouTuber sensation, I'm sure. And I do have links to products, and check out Jenson's. They're small parts. A lot of them are still on sale, like the SRAM chains and so forth. That's a great place to still look for prices that have not gone up and still have them available. They're based out of California. They used to be a warehouse wholesaler back in the day, but now they sell direct to consumer for the last 15 years, I think. So they're pretty good. If you like wax chains, I do have some on my website, mainly the Connex brand, but if you are specifically running a Shimano or a SRAM and you just want to stick with that flavor, Vital Chains is another, I'd say, approved partner kind of thing. He does a lot of chain waxing. That's all he does is chain waxing. So he does carry Shimano ceramic KMC. And he also has the little pot kits if you wanted to go there. So I'll put that link in the below to check out. But in any case, let's get this ready. Go for a ride. And again, thank you so much, because it makes you to make this channel. So until next time, have a wonderful day. From the garage. Oh boy. Here we go. Gotta make things cute, right? All packed up. Oh yeah, I flipped this over when I get halfway. Do like 20 or 30 times one direction and then do reverse. Shedding is not a directional thing. Like some chains are. Keep in mind, some chains are directional. Kind of baffles me. Because you pedal backwards, right? Something like that. Then you just kind of make it like it was. Put it back in its package. I do now provide a little, the Connex links are cool because you reuse them and you don't need a tool. So I print out a little thing to tell a customer right off the bat with a receipt or packing slip so they know what to do. Anyways, thanks again. Have a wonderful day.